and the public health order. So absolutely we need to support this. And I have a rental property and I've reached out proactively to my tenants. And so thank you for everyone in North Denver who's been proactive and who's working with their tenants until we can come up with some solution. Thank you for the 3 council.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, I don't see any other hands raised, so last chance to flag me on comments.
Right now, they're talking about endorsing a,
Over to Madam Secretary and roll call.
rent freeze Denver.
Knight? Aye. Sawyer? Aye. Torres? Cedarbaca?
Aye.
Aye. Everybody is voting here for Denver. They're asking the state to talk about a rent freeze. This is the first official.
We're going to go through slowly on these remote ones because this causes a lot of feedback in chambers when we're going back and forth. So, Madam Secretary, if you could, we're just going to go one at a time and just pause for a couple seconds. Council members, unmute yourself if you're remote, state your vote, and then we'll move on once we can hear it in the chambers. So we can start again with the ones who are not here, Madam Secretary.
So they're voting right now to approve this proclamation to the government of the state of Colorado that they should look at a rent freeze.
Aye.
Gilmore? Aye. Hines?
Aye.
Cashman?
Aye.
Ortega? Aye. Sandoval?
Aye.
Council President?
Aye. Madam Secretary, please close voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes, Proclamation 350 has been adopted. Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience, everyone. All right, Madam Secretary, I'm going to go back over to you, and please read the bills for introduction.
A City Council Direct File 2115, a bill for an ordinance vacating 2 alleys bounded by East 36th Avenue, East 37th Avenue, Lawrence Street, North Marion Street, and North Downing Street with reservations. 2195, a bill for an ordinance relinquishing a portion of the easement established in the will and decree and condemnation recorded with Denver Clerk and Recorder at reception number 98000-22578, located at 2901 North Broadway Street. 2239, a bill for an ordinance vacating a portion of 36th Street at or near 36th Street and 3595 Vancouver Street without reservations. 2344, a bill for an ordinance approving a proposed mandatory agreement between the City and County of Denver and State of Colorado to utilize the Convention Center for provision of medical services in connection with the COVID-19 pandemic.
So right now,
Land use, transportation, and infrastructure, 20.
they're all assigning money to the government aid for FEMA, for COVID.
Between the City and County of Denver and Urban Drainage and Flood Control District for drainage and flood control improvements along Sanderson Gulch. 2308, a bill for an ordinance relinquishing portions of the easements established in Denver Gateway Center, filing number 5, subdivision plat, recorded with Denver Clerk and Recorder at reception number 2019-153485, located at or near East 60th Avenue. 2309, a bill for an ordinance vacating portions of East Alameda Avenue near the intersection of East Alameda Circle and East Alameda Avenue, adjacent to 2520 East Alameda Circle, 2550 East Alameda Circle, and 2565 East Alameda Circle with reservations.
So they're giving up space for businesses, maybe? Like outdoor food areas, probably?
Council members, this is your last opportunity to call an item out. Councilmember Flynn, will you please make motions for us this evening? much. I'll do a quick recap. Under resolution, Member Flynn has called out resolution 345 for a vote, and Councilmember Torres has called out resolutions 342, 347, and 348 for questions. Under bills for introduction, no items have been called out. Under bills for final consideration, Councilmember Flynn has called out Bill 286 for questions and a vote, and Councilmember Sadavaca has called out Council Bill 262 for a vote. Under pending, no items have been called out. Madam Secretary, if you please put the first item up on our screens. Councilmember Torres, go ahead with the question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had 3 questions that I sent through to the administration, and I just wanted to read back what those were and what the responses were from my colleagues in the public. One, and this had largely to do with the accessibility of the hotel. Question number 1 was 751 rooms. How many are ADA accessible? The response to that was 7. 2 was, how will individuals be identified for placement in this location? And how will we ensure the ADA compliant units will be allocated to folks with mobility needs? The response to this was, the contract we reviewed tonight is the first one slated for rooms for protective action. Generally speaking, we are prioritizing people at high risk to COVID-19 for these rooms. There's an intake form that is utilized for prioritizing access to rooms, and that form includes identifying needs of people with disabilities. People are then connected to the appropriate resource based on their needs. We know that we have more folks at high risk than we have rooms until we can provide resources and personnel for more. So we're working with our public health and health partners, as well as service and shelter providers to get input into that process for how to prioritize into these rooms. My third question was, for those occupying a room at this location, are their personal belongings being kept at a separate storage facility? The answer was Colorado Coalition for Homeless Staff are currently managing the intake process, so we're checking with them on how belongings are being handled. The response later to that question was, folks are able to take their personal belongings with them at this time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Great. Madam Secretary, if you will please put the next item on our screens. And Councilmember Flynn, give me a quick second, and then be ready to put Council Bill 345 on the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, actually, this is a resolution, 345. And this was one that was direct filed by me last week. And in the interim, over the weekend, this is a contract for security at the National Rescue Center for the facility that we've opened up there. And over the weekend.
Before we get into comments, could you put it on the floor first, get motion and second to discuss?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Council Resolution 345 be adopted.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. Questions and comments now. Councilmember Flynn.
As I was saying, before I was properly interrupted, it was discovered after Argus got in and started performing under an initial issuance of a contract that this would amend to add value to. It was realized that their expertise is not really a good fit for working in this sort of a situation. They do more event related activities, like at the Coliseum, at Red Rocks, at the Arts Center, the Buell Theater, and in fact, they also do Pepsi Center and Meraki's, I believe, under contracts with those entities. And it just wasn't a good fit. So what the administration intends to do, I was told, and I'm sure that Sky Stewart or Evan will nod at me one way or the other if I get this wrong, is that we will use an existing contract that has financial capacity with one of our security contractors, HSS, to perform these functions in place of what Argus was going to do. So there is no need to do this contract and to amend it to add value, in fact. So that's why I'm recommending that we now vote no. I ask everybody to vote no on this, so that it dies right here. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, member.
This is why Ghost Rider keeps saying HSS instead of Argus. Because HSS is a security firm that's going to do the shelters.
But then it went, wait, nope, good, all right. Councilmember Ortega, hold on just a second, let me go over to you.
Thank you, City.
Thank you. So we did incur some expenses. So how do we account for those that need to be paid to Argus for the work that they did do over the weekend? It's my understanding they worked for 3.5 days. So I'm assuming somehow we need to take care of that. And I don't know if we have an existing contract with them or we can just take care of it that way. Does anybody have an answer to that question?
Councilmember Flynn, you want to take that, or do you want me to kick that over to Sky Spirit? Sky, okay, hold on just a second, let me bring up here, Sky. If you can, that'd be great, otherwise I can get to it in a second here. Okay, looks like you're good to go, go ahead.
Hi, Sky Stewart, Mayor's Office. So the way we move forward with several of these contracts, including the Argus contract, was in order to get people on site very, very quickly, we did a much smaller dollar, very short-term agreement to get them paid and get them on site. So that agreement has been signed and is in place. What we were considering tonight was an amendment to that contract to add capacity and time. So we just don't need to take that forward. We have that original contract signed and in place to be able to pay for the 72 hours worth of service that Argus did provide on site.
All right, great. Great, thank you. I don't see anyone else with a hand up. So, Madam Secretary, hold on just a second. I'm going to go over to you and then we'll do roll call. And a reminder that the recommendation for this is a no vote. A no vote on this one. I'm Secretary, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Black. Flynn. Herndon. Knight. Sawyer. Torres. Cedabaca. Gilmore.
No.
Hines.
No, thanks.
Cashman.
No.
Ortega.
Ortega, we didn't get you.
It was
Go
no.
one more time.
No.
Sandoval.
No.
Council President.
No. Madam Secretary, if you please close voting and announce results.
13 nays.
13 nays, Council Resolution 345 has failed.
So for those of you just joining us, this is why Ghost Rider
Item on.
is saying HSS security at locations instead of Argus because of the contract change. And they have voted to send a letter to the governor saying they need a rent freeze and a mortgage freeze.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, questions around accessibility of the mobile showers that are being contracted for. There will be 18 trailers, 6 of them will have ADA compliant showers. The first question was, on the image from the vendor's website, there are either stairs or to the trailer or a ramp. Do they provide the ramp and is it ADA compliant, or do we need to provide the ramps? Answer, we have worked with the Office of Disability Rights to get appropriate ramps in place for the shower facilities. Ramps were provided by the vendor and also supplemented with additional ramps from a separate vendor. 3, question, if we have to provide the ramps, is that a separate vendor? Answer, yes. Question, because we've contracted these units, do they fall under the Department of Justice settlement agreement? Answer, this is still the question. The non-compliant locations that serve the unhoused community including the Denver Rescue Mission, did not affect our agreement because they're a separate nonprofit. Does the acquisition of these shower facilities now make them quote unquote a city facility under the agreement? Answer: the acquisition of these showers in and of itself should not subject us to the liability for breach of the DOJ settlement agreement. Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Sawyer, you also have a question?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, so I just had a question that I also asked via email and wanted to just make sure that it was read into the answer was read into the record. My question was regarding the price of this contract and whether we had looked into the possibility of purchasing the showers instead of renting them, given the cost of it. So the answer to that is that we had looked into it. So I'm just going to read the email. Britta Fisher actually asked the same question you're asking about the rental versus purchase. When we were procuring shower resources, she also asked if rent to own was a possibility. After doing a little research, the procurement team found that purchasing the showers is significantly more expensive than a short-term rental. It's also not recommended to own this equipment because it's difficult to maintain, and those maintenance costs, keeping up the equipment, especially if not used regularly, can be considerable. So in the end, it was determined that we're better off from a cost perspective and a long-term maintenance perspective with the rental at this time. So I just wanted to make sure that that was read into the record. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I don't see anybody else waving at me or raising their hand. All right, we're going to move on. Madam Secretary, if you please put the next item on our screen, and Councilmember Torres, I'm going to go back to you for your questions on 348. Go ahead.
Okay, my question was, what is the funding path for this particular contract? Who initially pays the $9.9 million? Is it a city budget encumbrance until we are reimbursed by the federal government? Answer: as part of our lease agreement for the state to lease the Colorado Convention Center, the state will pay $1.8 million per month, or a total of $10.8 million for the full term of the agreement. And these costs include reimbursement for SMG facility management during that period. The $9.9 million paid to SMG will be fully covered by the state's overall lease agreement with us. Because the state is reimbursing us for this, we will not seek FEMA reimbursement. Period. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, Madam Secretary, please put the next item on our screen. And Councilmember Flynn, if you could unmute yourself, and then please put Councilmember 266 on the floor.
Mr. President, I move that Council.
It's okay, Lacey, go to bed. They just said that it's cheaper to rent the trailers than to own showers. At $10 million. Are you paying attention, people?
Councilor Flynn, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I raised some questions about this last week on introduction, and got answers, some pretty extensive answers this afternoon to a number of those questions that I sent to Adrena Gibson. Thank you for coming down, Adrena, under these difficult circumstances that we're all operating under. I have a great concern that the prompt pay provision that's in this ordinance that requires the prime contractors, the general contractors that have city contracts of $1 million or more, to pay their MBE, WBE subcontractors within 35 days of that subcontractor submitting the invoice for the work, in actuality is shifting the problem of prompt pay from us, because we don't pay promptly in every circumstance, and probably in most circumstances within 35 days, shifting it to the prime contractors or to the subcontractors under them who may have third tier, fourth tier subs as well. And so we're kind of making those prime contractors the bank for our city contracts. And Ms. Gibson has, and her office has provided, through working with Public Works and the airport and all the other folks who do contracting, they have developed a 10-point initiative that is trying to fix our end of the logjam, if you will. But I'm still concerned how we will measure that going forward, because my concern in voting on this tonight is that we're opening a box of problems when maybe we could have taken time to
Do it right,
come up with
folks.
a way to solve that before we came to council. So maybe Ms. Gibson, without going into detail of all the questions that you answered, and which I forwarded to some other members who were interested in that same issue, could you talk to us about what happens if this doesn't work? What happens if a year from now we discover that a lot of primes who used to do business with us will no longer bid on our work because they can't afford, particularly if the prime is itself an MBE or WBE prime acting as a GC on one of our contracts, that they can't afford to pay within 35 days their subs and then wait for payment from us for up maybe 6 months if there's a lot of change orders involved. How will we know, and how will we come to fix that? Thank you.
So you guys gotta understand, this is all big money, big money.
Good evening, Adrena Gibson, Director of the Division of Small Business Opportunity. This is
One contract is $1 million or more.
So excuse me if I'm readjusting. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
and
Ms. Snyder, make sure we're calling those people, getting everybody in housing.
That's quite a large question, so I'm going to try and answer it to the best of my ability, but feel free to reiterate any of those questions in the meantime. So I think the first question that you had was the concern around the city paying their primes. And your concern with moving this bill forward, which is directly related to MWBEs, which is the small minority women-owned businesses, with regards to city prompt pay. And so just a couple of items with that. I want to state that the concerns that have been brought forward with contractor prompt pay is not the same as city prompt pay. They're two distinct issues that we've been solving for the last several months. You had brought up the concern that if we move forward with contractor prompt pay, which is to pay MWBEs within 35 days, we could be opening up larger problems, a can of worms, if you will. But those can of worms have already been opened for several years and for many of our small businesses. And we're solving for that problem by putting this contractor prompt pay provision into place. We're solving that issue. As it relates to that, the city prompt pay is our responsibility. It's our accountability as the city to pay our prime contractors within 35 days of an acceptable invoice. The contractor prompt pay aligns with that. It flows down from the city to the prime to the small businesses. It's with no surprise that we haven't been necessarily holding up to that as truthfully as we could. But throughout this extension that we received in December, that's what we've been focused on more than anything. And even outside of the contractor prompt pay is shoring up our processes, our procedures, and our policy to ensure that we are in fact meeting the requirements of city prompt pay and getting our primes paid within those 35 days. It's not enough for us to remove contractor prompt pay. The contractor prompt pay is just, it's fair. We have city prompt pay for primes, we should have prompt pay for small businesses as well. And during that time, while we're implementing, as we're doing right now, we will ensure that our primes are being paid on time, because we have been working diligently, weekly, in work groups, all of the city agencies collaborating to make sure that we can better measure our ability to pay primes on time, that the pay apps and the invoices and those reviews are cut in half, that our technology systems are shored up and moving at a quicker speed. 9 different initiatives have moved forward with the help of the mayor's office and convening all the city agencies so that we're working on implementing those. I sent to some of the city council members examples of those 9 initiatives and the action item log for where we're at with each of those initiatives. I just want to again restate that yes, my job is small minority women-owned businesses, and we've been focused on that. But with that, we've also been focused on making sure the primes are paid in a reasonable time as well. So we are aligned it's just, and it's equitable. It's not enough to remove it because of the uncertainty, but rather to push forward in these times.
Pay
and
small
make sure
businesses
that
on time.
in a very
so they can
balanced
afford
way,
to
we're doing
stay
everything
in
that we should
business.
be for both primes and for small businesses.
These are valid, just concerns.
Am I still muted?
Yeah, for some reason.
Y'all having fun chatting in there?
So you'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Adrena, could you address perhaps how will we know that we are succeeding?
Free Eric Brandt, that's right.
Will you commit to come back to committee, to council? What are the measurements? Because my understanding is prompt pay for the primes from the city, we start our clock when the invoice is accepted, when we check everything out. But for the MBWBs, the clock starts when they turn in the invoice, before the prime or the GC actually can say, well, is all the work accepted, et cetera? Are there differences between the two systems that we can try to align better? Because I'm concerned that, we're required, especially the smaller primes, even those who are MBWB themselves, might not have the wherewithal to borrow the money to pay their subcontractors while waiting for us to go through change orders, to finalize costs, and to issue them a check. What will they pay them with if not the money that they're expecting from us? Short-term loans, or how are we going to work with that? So how will we know, say, over the next year that this has been a successful effort?
So to answer your first question, yes, I'm committed to coming back to City Council, and I know that Councilwoman Tina Bach had asked for us to also put together a report to show and measure how we're doing with regards to payments to MWBEs as well as to our primes, and how that's being measured. And in fact, one of our initiatives, one of the 9 initiatives that we're pushing forward, is our Power BI dashboard, which will look at agency by agency to see how quickly we are paying our primes, if we're within that 35-day pay period, in what area of the flow chain of a payout being reviewed, maybe slowing that up,
What's up,
or
donkey?
the reasoning for it. But we are looking at keeping that clock on so that we can see throughout the many different approvers, if you will, what is the lag time?
Fear the government, hold them accountable.
Bolstering
We must hold
and
them accountable.
streamlining those efficiencies. So we will have an actual system.
Today, they
that we're
didn't
working
say
on
we're going to do a
now.
rent freeze in Denver. They said, Governor,
And yes,
look
I'm
at
committed
it.
to
They
coming
passed the
back
buck.
regularly to make sure that you all see that these changes are being met. It's not just the job of DISBO, but also of all of the other city agencies. And we have a system that will allow us to see that.
Okay, Adreno, I would like, and as long as the administration is sitting out here also, I would like to see a report maybe in a year that takes into account the number of bidders on each contract, so that we can see, are we getting more bidders, or are we losing bidders where we might have expected 5 primes to come in and bid, we're only getting 2. So to measure that impact also, it would be nice to have Public Works in the airport give us that kind of a report after a year, because some of the primes are very concerned that we'll thin the field of potential bidders by putting this additional, in some cases, what could be an onerous requirement on that. Thank you.
Yes, and I would just like to state with that, we'll make sure that we put that report together, but I do want to just note that looking at whether a bidder does or doesn't bid on a project could be a multitude of things, especially given the economy that we're in right now.
Exactly.
And to your other concern, which I've also heard from non-MWB.
Moderation, folks.
Their ability or their unwillingness to potentially work with the city. I just want to reiterate that this provision is nothing new. It's nothing cutting edge. The city has it for the primes. Our city has this provision, and CDOT has it on their Central 70 projects. Many of these primes, including MWBE primes, are very familiar with this provision. They've worked within this provision for several years. In fact, throughout all of fast tracks, and then, as you know, in Central 70, and small businesses who
They
were
tell
small
us that.
businesses and now primes grew throughout this program.
You know,
It actually assisted them in keeping their
Donkey, we can turn this down for a second and talk about this, because it's Ghost Rider who, sitting at the National Western Convention Center, exposed that they were sending
Very used to this. Had no effect on it that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
exposed the fact that the shelters were sending people away, allowing me to make those phone calls. And and for us to get the next shelter open, for them to start moving buses that they were not moving, right? If they're gonna house everybody, house everybody. Let them see how much it is and what the need is. Let's get a real count.
All right, thank you, thank you, Mr. President. I want a lot of feedback here. I'd like to start by giving a sincere shout out to our former colleague, Councilman Wayne New, for the incredible amount of groundwork he did over a year or two in addressing a variety of DISBO-related issues, with prompt pay for subs being perhaps the most important of the issues that we looked at. He was kind enough to involve Councilwoman Ortega.
We
and
do. They want
myself
to test
in
us all.
discussions, and
They want to
we
test us all for
interviewed
antibodies so that we can go out in the
sub
public.
after sub after sub that
Not mandatory vaccines,
horror
mandatory
stories
testing,
about
mandatory
the lack
quarantine.
of prompt payment, the lack of adequate payment from primes that had been paid. And this is while I agree 100% with my colleague Councilman Flynn that we on the city side have the responsibility to do what we're asking our primes to do.
So, Donkey, you were your
truly
family
feel
member.
that in
Was it
this
Jeanette?
kitchen, we've got the right person with the right background to ensure that all sides in this situation are treated fairly.
No, I don't think.
I very much.
I don't know, man. It's scary, isn't it?
Again, appreciated the work that Councilman New did along the way. I'm sorry
Laura,
that
thank you,
he's,
Laura.
I hope he's watching tonight. I hope he's watching tonight. He deserves credit for where this.
Her name got brought up the other day.
Where DISBO sits today,
Lawyer I was
which
working
think
with,
is
and
a
he asked if I knew
far
Laura, and
stronger
I said
position
no, but I know her
than
family.
It did a couple of years ago. So I will look forward to both.
I'm literally living
keeping an eye on,
5-minute
Ms.
walk
Gibson and her staff
from
to
the
ensure that our
Denver
crimes
courts.
are treated in the way they deserve. And I look very
Yeah.
forward to supporting
So
this. Thank you, Mr. President.
as soon as they open the courts back up, that's my morning walk.
To Council Ortega. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. I first want to say thank you to Adrena and Jason Moore, who spent a lot of time with me walking through different provisions of the ordinance. Some of that was with other people who had many questions about it as well. And I just want to get on the record a couple of clarifying points. So first
Yeah,
of all,
how many people are going to have
throughout the
tickets
process
for
with,
violating quarantine?
I met with DSTO staff and.
Okay, Mouse, be good or go away.
As well as MWBEs. This issue was brought up over and over again, correct? So now that we're getting ready to adopt it, it's not like the first time that this issue has come up. Can you just clarify that?
Okay. Yes, this has been an ongoing matter for small businesses for some time. Coming on board last year, this was actually brought forward by many of the small businesses within the community, small and large, who brought this directly to the mayor's office, many of the council members, and was a topic of ongoing discussion internally, where we convened subcommittees through our business equity leadership team and many of the agencies and their staff.
So I have a couple
Just
more
like
questions.
Councilman Ortega, we can't hear you in chambers and we have to quick plug a device in. So, just you let that cover over the room there, go get that plugged in for you. And then we'll switch over, hold tight, Councilwoman.
Are you ready for me?
Hold on, we can't turn your audio on, I have it go deaf in here from the feedback, so give us just a second. I'll see the thumbs up, I think, when we're ready. All right, go ahead.
No, there are no
So what
closed
I'm gonna do is
captions
just
here.
kind of roll through the next 3 items.
This is
very
live.
briefly so that we don't have to bounce back
That's a
and forth.
good ADA question, huh?
Very appreciate it.
A lot of this is about how quickly the primes get their billings in. Because if they're holding up getting their billings in, then that's gonna hold up them getting their allotments on a monthly basis as it's anticipated. So it's incumbent on everyone, including the minority and the women subs on a project, to be as thorough as possible.
This is the
One of
city council
questions
Zoom.
related to the billing is, we heard this over and over, that if there is a question about one item on a bill that gets submitted by the prime and it's holding up everybody else.
So this
that
is the
has their
city
billings
council
in
Zoom
with
meeting
that
right here.
Monthly allotment.
Constitutional
that
Kim,
one
yay,
item
how you
holds
doing,
up
hon?
the entire billing, not just that one item. And so I'd like you to address that. So let me go on
So
to
this
the
is
next,
why it's a public meeting.
2 items. If it looks like we have major issues with the prompt pay or any other provision of the ordinance, we don't have to wait for the next disparity study. You all and we together can look at making changes to the ordinance, just like we did, working with Councilman New to make the one change that was reflected in when the prime would submit, the subs would submit their billings, and it showed transparency in the billing process. And then the last issue is about creating the transparency that we need in tracking what's happening with on-call contracts. There are some that end up having MWBE's goals attached to a project, but there are some that may not. And unless they go through the SBO, we normally don't see that criteria. And I think being able
By the way, I'm
to track
taking a
that
break
data
with this
is
video
as important
to
as
clean my
tracking
sewing
ones that
room.
have the goals attached to it. So that's it. Thank you.
So that tomorrow we can put out another 30
All right,
masks.
thank you, Councilwoman. Go ahead.
Okay, so to answer and
Non-stop
further elaborate
sewing.
on many of the points that Councilman Ortega brought up, yes, when we started looking, the first question was with regards to accountability and some of the information that we received back about primes holding pay apps, which has and continues to cause undue financial strain on small businesses. Yes, the process for prompt pay is with regards to a multitude of things. I mean, there can be the instances which were brought up by Councilman Flynn where the city needs to go through their checks and balances to make sure that we've received all of the documentation needed. However, there's also the case in which you have prime contractors that will hold their invoices from submitting them to the city because it incurs interest, and they want to keep it in the bank as long as they can before they have to then submit it, or the documentation isn't ready, or someone's gone on vacation. That does happen. Prompt pay for contractors, so contractor prompt pay, as well as with the city prompt pay, allows for accountability on all ends to require the city is doing their checks and balances, that all documentation is present, that we're living within those 35 days, and we're moving the process forward. It requires accountability from the prime contractors to say, I need to have all of this documentation, I need to get it in because I'm going to be required to pay my subs here very soon. So let me make sure that all of this information is correct, which we are now creating checklists for our primes. Let me make sure that the certified payroll is complete, which they'll receive earlier notification on if something is missing. as well as the accountability on the small business to make sure that all of their I's are dotted and T's are crossed when they're submitting that information up to the prime. So again, it's not enough to just rely on paid when paid.
I know this is boring stuff right now. I'm not sure what's left.
With primes paying their subs outside of just.
I'm not sure what's left in our city council agenda tonight.
So with regards to all of those.
They're talking about paying contracts of $1 million or more to small businesses that run these contracts, and so they can pay their subcontractors or employees, as it may be. And so the discussion is going on. Earlier today, we had discussion in regards to sending a letter of memorandum to the governor to say, hey, everybody's bitching about not being able to pay their bills. Are you going to talk about a rent freeze, a mortgage freeze, alleviances for greater amounts of allowance for renters? And you know what for sure? Thanks, Caterpillar. Yeah, we're not only covering this stuff, we're doing something about it. Even as I sit here, I'm drawing patterns, I'm cleaning my workspace, I'm working on masks, while we enjoy these bickerings and expenditures and all the things that are the process. My goal is to have piecing ready by the end of the day for at least 50 masks, so that all I do is sew tomorrow. And I want to do that because they're opening more facilities for these homeless, and we already need to get masks to these groups. So I have a few masks left at my house, and I've got pieces sewed up together. And we're worrying about paying small businesses.
Or additional rules that need to be put in place. We're doing that now. The ordinance is the enforceable language. Our rules and regulations will allow us to provide that fine line of detail as to how prompt payment will flow from the primes to the subcontractors, and what areas are disputable, where we have leniency and flexibility. And once we come back from this in a year or so, or the next disparity study, we'll be able to measure all of that, and if needed, amend any time between there. But the rules and regs really allowed for us to allow.
So we also, for those of you joining us, we have a memorandum, and we learned that HSS is the new security company.
That will allow us to track this information.
That Argus is not, or Aegis, or whoever it was, not doing the security for Denver Council, or for the homeless shelters.
Right now, Member Ortega, are you good to go? Okay. Right, then that means that we're going for Councilmember Lynn. If you could unmute yourself, so get back to the view. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know that some folks are mixing questions and comments, so I just want to make sure I got my comment in. And that is that this is an important program that will expire at the end of this month if we don't pass this. And I think it has a lot of challenges to this provision, this prompt pay provision. It has a lot of challenges to it. There's just so many situations, as Ms. Gibson has pointed out here, where it is maybe the fault of the prime by holding on to the payment that it receives from the city. But in many cases, it's where the city has not paid. And I'm particularly concerned about those instances, and this is something else that needs to be tracked over the next year or so as this gets implemented, when a prime pays the subcontractor for a piece of work and then later invoices the city for it, but then the city might reject that work that's already been paid for by the prime. So there's a lot of areas that are disconnected right now that need to be reconnected in it. But what I wanted to say,
man, this can be boring, huh, people?
Vote yes on this tonight and get this passed.
Let's get this passed, then we'll figure out how to fuck it up later.
Situations where sometimes you're 55-45 on how to vote. You're not always 100%. Not all these votes are 100% yes or 100% no. It's an important program that needs to go forward. We're trying something that I think is very risky for all sides, and it has to work
Risky,
right.
folks.
And so we want to make sure that in a year's time, in 2 years' time, that we keep track of the right data, the right measurements to make sure that it is
It's
working.
risky
It's
to
not
require
hurting
that
us.
if we have to pay
It's not
somebody $1
hurting
million,
subs, and it's not hurting
we have to pay them in the
primes
first
as well.
35 days after they've
One other
asked
reason
us
that I
for the
want to
money.
vote, that I'm going to vote
What
yes
kind of
now
risk is
that
that?
there
$1
are
million
only 7 of us
contract.
here in the room, and in order to
And if it's $100,000 a month invoice,
unnecessary problems down the road,
gotta pay your bills, people.
any potential challenges to some of the members participating virtually, I think it's advantageous to us to have 7 yes votes here in the room. And so for that reason as well, I put aside my misgivings and vote yes, and just rely on the staff to implement these initiatives and get it right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, next I'm going to go to Councilmember Hines. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. There we go. All right. Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Councilmember Torres for her inclusiveness of the disability community on another topic tonight. And in that similar vein, I just want to put on the record that I hope that future surveys include the disability community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, we are.
They're having an echo tonight, aren't they?
On to the vote. So, Madam Secretary, we're going to try this a little bit different, see if we can make this work a little bit better and we can hear everything. If all of you who are participating remotely can unmute yourselves now, and then Madam Secretary, if you can just pause for a quick second in between the in-person and then the out of room. I think our audio will work a little bit better, Zach, maybe? No? All right, don't do that. Okay, all right, never mind. We'll just try and go through it slowly again. So, Madam Secretary, let me see if I can.
Can I get an amen?
And unmute you.
So what y'all talking about in here? Or are you just listening to other things?
You should be good.
Jump in a hot tub. Aw, hallucinator. Oh, nice.
Flynn? Brendan?
Is that
Kenny?
live for all of us?
Sawyer? Torres? Cedabaca?
Aye.
Gilmore?
Aye.
Hines?
Aye.
Cashman?
Aye.
Ortega?
Aye.
Sandoval?
Aye.
Council President?
Hi, Madam Secretary, please close the voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes, Council Bill 286 has passed. All right, Madam Secretary, if you please put the next item on our screens. And Councilmember Flynn should be ready to put Council Bill 262 on the floor.
Mr. President, I move that Council Bill
Not gonna take us live, hallucinator.
series of 2020 be placed upon final consideration and due pass.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, or, sorry, Councilmember, it has been and seconded. We're gonna go to Councilmember Sedbaka, if you wanna unmute, you are up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councilwoman Kanich, for delaying this last week so that I would have an opportunity to speak on why I would like to vote no and strongly encourage my colleagues to vote no on this ordinance. I think it's really appropriate that it's coming on the heels of our discussion around the new DISBO ordinance. We've had legalized marijuana for almost a decade in our state in its different forms with medical, recreational. And to date, we don't have a completed disparity study to reveal to us where the gaps are. We only know anecdotally that there are less than 10 license owners that are Black or brown in the state of Colorado and even less in the city of Denver. We have a major equity problem, and that is why I supported extending the moratorium or the date until we start our new lottery on the other ordinance. What I don't feel is appropriate is passing this ordinance tonight. This is an ordinance that opens up an entirely brand new license type. We know from experience that we did not plan well for our other license types. We know that we had such severe inequities, we needed to place a moratorium and caps on different license types in specific neighborhoods.
With Grammarly, you can find really good. No.
Can you hear?
Yep.
And so now I believe that if we're going to delay the lottery for the other license types, we must delay the lottery for this brand new license type. We must delay opening a license type until we have an equity plan in place. Unfortunately, what this is going to do, if we do not maintain it as a pilot, is that it opens the floodgates for outsiders, people outside of the state, to invest and participate in this industry, because we've had those changes happen at the state level that allow for this to happen. All I'm asking for is either that we treat this initial license as a pilot and don't allow any other licenses of this type until we figure out our equity plan, or that we pause on this license until we have an equity plan. The only thing being proposed, it is a mechanism for obtaining information. No benchmarks, no requirements, no expectations around equity that we would have for a new licensee under this license type. And so I'm asking my colleagues to think about the responses.
You can win lottery for deliveries. This is on delivery licenses.
And how there's nothing in there that's
and you know, I don't know who half these people are as guys or girls.
From the same thing happening again that happened when we opened up our medical marijuana licenses and then our recreational licenses. Please vote no on this tonight. Give it 1 year to become a part of our equity plan. Give us a year to think it through, or treat this individual licensee as a pilot. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Don't see anybody else in the queue, so Secretary, I'm going to go to you for roll call.
So there's no motion to modify it. And she also didn't make a motion to modify it to mandate it as a pilot.
Black. Flynn.
They're going to vote
Herndon.
regardless.
Kinich. Sawyer. Torres. Cedabaca.
No.
Gilmore.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Cashman.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Sandoval.
Aye.
Council President.
Aye. Madam Secretary, please vote anything else we don't.
12 ayes, 1 nay.
12 ayes, 1 nay, Bill 262 has passed. That does conclude the item. Council members, remember that this is a consent, a blackout, and we need to vote aye. Otherwise, this is the last chance to call an item for a separate vote. Council member, resolutions for adoption of bills of final consideration for final passage on the floor. You unmute yourself, and I receive you. Go ahead.
The sound is horrible.
Thank you. I move the resolutions be adopted and bills on final consideration be placed upon final consideration and due passage block for the following items. All series of 2020, 342, 347, 348, 349, 301, 300, 314, 208, 237, 238, 303, 227, 304.
This is where they just roll through the rest of it.
262,
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
All right, 262. Voted on, not that one.
Okay.
Got paid out. Right?
Sure.
Okay, so not 262, but everything else, is that correct, Madam Secretary?
That's correct.
Okay, great. It has been moved and seconded.
Moved and approved.
So,
This is where they all just say yes or no to the whole batch of it, and so of course they're gonna say yes.
Black. Flynn. Herndon. Kinich. Sawyer. Torres. Cedabaca. Cedabaca. Gilmore.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Cashman.
Aye.
Ortega. Aye. Sandoval.
Aye.
Council President.
Madam Secretary, please close the voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes, the resolutions have been adopted and the bills have been placed upon final consideration and do pass. Council will not take a recess this evening, and seeing no other business before this body, this meeting is adjourned.
That's it, folks. Oh, yeah, some of those masks are good, some of them are bad. That was Denver City Council meeting. It is now over. Thank you for joining us. We need to do Jefferson Sheriff's Office. Remember that that Eric needs our love. And I don't think I need to deal with any of that stuff right now. So yeah, I'm going back to sewing, but before I do, let's take a look at what's going on in the sewing room. Here we have stacks of cloth. Filters. No, they did not freeze rents in Denver. They asked for the governor to start the conversation. We have ropes, we have bags, we have a small pile of masks over there that is starting to accumulate. We're going to be tracing masks out over here. And we've got Brian's dip over there. So that's the workroom. And I thank you for hanging out with me. I'm trying to change it around. There we go. So remember, these are the masks that we're making. If you haven't seen them yet, they go over your head, under your ponytail, and draw up over your face. And if you'd like one, shoot me an email and I'll get back to you this afternoon. Otherwise, that's been a moment of Denver City Council. And the bolo would be somebody wearing a mask. Everybody's going to be wearing a mask. Make sure your mask stands out sometimes. And other times, that it always looks the same. And by the way, I mean, you know, we got fun fishy masks, right? We've got some of the designs that are coming out in the next couple of days. That's one of them right there, right? A little fishy on your face. Who doesn't like a little fishy on their face? Some more. Yeah. We got these new patterns by Sally Smith. She picked out some colors for us. Here's one right here. That's interesting. It's a lot of leaves in the color purple. Pinks, right? We've got like some old zoot suit style colors and designs, and I haven't really quite decided. So why don't you guys help me decide? Do you think that the masks would be better like this? or like this? I haven't decided yet. One for bars like this. Two for sideway like this. Horizon. Vertical 1, horizon 2. Hallucinator says 2. Unless you're doing real work. Yeah, I am politely taking masks out to people. Number 2. So these are going to go sideways. Okay. I like the idea. Thank you for your opinions. Golden Eyes. Robin Mondragon. And of course, Hallucinator. I wear a mask when I go out. But I work with high-risk populations. I'm in areas where we're doing things like feeding the homeless, So here's another pattern that we got in the mail today from Sally. I'm going to make that up. I think some people will like that. And I got to wash all of these first, of course, and get them to shrink before you sew and cut and all that jazz. So we're going to do that first. But it's been an hour, and it's 7 o'clock at night, and I hope you guys enjoy your evening. I'm going to get off of the live streams for the night. Focus on some relaxation, some rest, maybe dinner. And you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. You would like a mask, Richard F. Email me, cuttheplastic@gmail.com. That's the easiest way to do it. Okay? I'm going to work on getting a bunch of these. You know what? While you're here, Richard, here's what I got done currently. Golden Eyes. I got flat green. I got light blue fishy tropicals. I got blue froggy and dragonflies. I got a starfish. You're not telling me what you want. Hit me up by email. We'll go from there. Good night, everybody.